What have you done? Something shifted, and I'm sensing it before you even realize what happened. Your skin looks different. Your energy moved. Something in your presence changed. But that's not what they are noticing. That's not why people's eyes linger a fraction too long when you enter a space. That's not why their breath catches slightly. Something else awakened. You became magnetic. Here is what actually happened. And I'm going to tell you in the first 30 seconds because you deserve to know. You didn't become attractive because you fixed yourself. You became attractive because you stopped trying to be attractive. You removed 3 things without even realizing it. And that made you magnet. In the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through the 4 shifts that did this. It's not theory, not another 10 steps to confidence. What you actually did unconsciously that made people feel something when you walk into a room. Let's start with the first thing you stopped doing. You stopped performing. Every single day, you were making exponentially more decisions than you realized. What to wear, how to present yourself, which version of you to show. Not just in the mirror, but in your mind as well. You were exhausted before you even started because your mental resources were depleted by infinite micro choices. Your brain couldn't process everything, so it started shutting down, foggy, heavily, like you were moving through water. Think of it like the devil wears Prada. Remember how Andy starts off overwhelmed by 1,000 options, trying to figure out which belt, which bag, which version of herself might finally be enough. She's drowning in choices, but the moment she simplifies, when she stops trying to please every voice and just picks what actually fits her, she becomes powerful. She stops being a victim of the chaos and starts owning her own presence. You did the same thing without planning it. You stopped asking, what will make me look good? And started asking, what actually feels like me? 3 core outfits. One that feels like home, when you're working, one for when you're just existing, one for when you want to feel alive around others. You wear the same pieces, the same accessorize, the same everything, unless something genuinely calls to you with an undeniable pull. The result? You stopped thinking about how you look and started just being. And that's when people started seeing you. Actually seeing you. Not the performance, not the carefully curated image, the presence, the realness. There is something spiritual about the simplification. When you stop saying yes to everything, when you get clear about what actually resonates with your true self, you can finally hear yourself. And that is what's magnetic. Not your appearance. You. Now the second discovery. was almost shocking in its simplicity and its power. Your body doesn't need 17 products screaming conflicting promises. It needs only 1 or 2 things that are actually designed for your unique body. Real science, real personalization, real understanding of what your body actually needs versus what it's being told to want by algorithm and influencers and lies. You stopped buying things impulsively. You started researching. You waited. You let the desire pass and only kept what actually worked. Your bathroom went through from cluttered chaos to essential calm. And somehow that outer simplicity created inner peace. It's like that moment in Something's Gotta Give, when Diane Keaton's character finally stops trying to be the young, perfect, pulled together woman and just lets herself be seen in her own skin, reading, writing, wearing her glasses, existing. Suddenly she is not just attractive. She is unforgettable because she stopped treating her body like a problem to solve and started treating it like a home to live in. When you're not drowning in false promises and quick fixes, you can actually hear what your body is asking for. You can feel the difference between what your body needs and what your insecurity thinks it needs. The moment you started treating your body with actual respect instead of contempt disguised as self-improvement, your body started responding in ways you couldn't explain. Your skin cleared, your face looked more sculpted, not because of products, because you stopped fighting yourself, because you started listening instead of demanding, because you made peace with yourself. And your body felt that peace and reflected it back. The third thing nobody talks about is that movement isn't punishment. It's not about forcing your body into some idealized shape. It's about connecting with the aliveness and that already lives inside you. It's about remembering that you are not separate from your body. You are your body. When you move consistently, something ancient wakes up. Your face becomes more defined, not because of calorie burns, but because you are actually inhabiting your body again. You are present in it. You are alive in it. Your posture shifts because you are no longer carrying the weight of self-rejection. You have energy because you are not exhausted from self-abandonment. Remember that scene in Under the Tuscan Sun, where Diane Lane just starts running through the fields, not to lose weight, not to train for anything, but because she feels so much life inside her. She has to move it through her body. That's it. That's the medicine. Movement becomes a way of saying, I'm here, I'm alive, and I'm not apologizing for taking up space. You started moving not to change your body but because it made you feel alive, because it felt like medicine, because it reconnected you with yourself. And as you felt more alive, everything about you started shifting. The glow people talk about, It's not from skincare. It's from being present in your own existence, from feeling your own aliveness radiating outward, from finally no longer being at war with yourself. The fourth realization was about creating spaces of ease instead of constant effort. Instead of fighting against your nature, you started aligning with it. You opted for things that required less maintenance because you had other things you cared about more. Your appearance became something that simply worked instead of something you constantly had to manage and fret over and feels anxiety about. And in that ease, something shifted. You became more attractive. Not because you looked different, because you looked relaxed, because you looked like you knew something everyone else was still searching for. Because you were no longer broadcasting desperation. You were broadcasting peace. Peace. It's like the difference between Reese Witherspoon's character in the beginning of Legally Blonde, frantically trying to be seen, chasing Warner with every perfect outfit, and the version of her later who just walks into a courtroom, owns her knowledge, and doesn't need to prove a thing. The first version is trying. The second version is. And that is what makes everyone stop and watch. And peace is the most magnetic frequency there is. That's when you realized that trying harder isn't the answer. Letting go is the answer. Trusting is the answer. Knowing that when you stop forcing, when you stop controlling, when you stop demanding that yourself change into something more acceptable, that's when you become acceptable. That's when you become magnetic. Then came the confidence piece. And this is where everything became alchemical. This is where you started to understand that you were engaging in actual magic. You watched people who seemed to walk through life untouchable, and you realized they were not born that way. They built something. They created momentum. They became practitioners of their own transformation. Confidence isn't this fixed thing you have or you don't. The momentum you generate through small, consistent actions. Every time you did something that scared you, even slightly, you showed yourself you're capable. You gathered evidence. You built proof. And that proof became momentum. That momentum became your new baseline. You started tracking your small victories, not the big achievements, the tiny moments where you spoke up when silence would have been easier, where you tried something that terrified you, where you showed yourself you were more than you believed. And in collecting these moments, you created a story different from one you'd been telling yourself for years. A story where you were not broken, a story where you were actually capable, a story where you deserved the space you occupied. Confidence isn't about feeling fearless. It's about acting despite the fear. It's about inviting fear to sit beside you and continuing anyway. Courage and fear are not opposites. They are dance partners. The people who seem fearless have just learned this dance. They have learned to move through fear instead of waiting for it to disappear. And that changes everything. You discovered something about the power of stepping into different versions of yourself in different moments. And you realized this isn't about being fake. This is about understanding that you contain multitudes. There is a version of you that handles difficult conversations with grace. There is a version of you that creates without self-judgment. There is a version of you that takes up space without apology. There's a version of you that loves fiercely and trusts completely. These aren't fake versions. They are real. They are all you. But they are you at different frequencies. And you learned that you could consciously step into whichever frequency the moment required. It's like putting on a particular costume that connects you with a part of yourself that's already there. The alter ego isn't pretend, it's permission to access parts of yourself that already exist. It's remembering yourself at higher frequencies. Think of Julia Roberts in Erin Brockovich. She doesn't become a different person. She just starts showing up as the version of herself that already knew she was worth listening to. The clothes, the voice, the posture, it's not an act. It's her final stepping into the frequency she'd always carried. And once she does, the whole world shifts around her. And once you felt what it's like to move through the world from that frequency, you remember. Your nervous system learns. Your body learns. Your cells remember. And eventually it becomes your natural state instead of something you have to consciously access. You rewired yourself. You became what you were pretending to be. Body language is deeper than you think, way deeper. It's not just about looking confident. It's about your body literally teaching your mind what confidence feels like. It's about your physical form broadcasting your internal state. When you stand tall, when you take up space, when you make eye contact, something shifts in your psychology, physiology. Your nervous system gets the message that you belong, that you matter, that you have the absolute right to exist here, exactly as you are. And your entire presentation changes from that foundation. You learned to get comfortable with taking up space, to claim the room you were in, not arrogantly, but naturally, like someone who knows they belong, to let your shoulders relax instead of contracting into apology, to let your voice take up sound. It's like that iconic moment in Steel Magnolias when Julia Roberts' character says, "I'd rather have 30 minutes of wonderful than a lifetime of nothing special. It's not just the words, it's how she holds herself when she says it. She's not apologizing for wanting what she wants. She's not shrinking. That's the posture of someone who's decided they matter. And from that physical shift came an entire psychological reorganization, an entire spiritual reorganization. You were not performing confidence anymore. You were embodying it. You were radiating it. Your energy was communicating it before your mouth ever opened. Then came the social alchemy, the transformation that happens when you understand that every interaction is an exchange of energy. The first thing you realized was that people remember how you made them feel, not what you said, not your achievements, not your credentials, how you made them feel. When someone feels truly seen by you, something happens in their nervous system. They relax, they open, they become more themselves in your presence. And that's magnetic. That's the frequency people are drawn to like moths to light. You started actually listening to people instead of planning what you would say next. And I mean truly listening, not just waiting for your turn, not mentally rehearsing your response, not thinking about how to make yourself look good. Actually present with what they were expressing, actually curious about their world. And something shifted immediately. People felt it like a frequency change. They opened more. The conversation became real instead of performative, real instead of transactional, real instead of exhausting. There is something profound about learning someone's name and actually using it that creates immediate connection on a cellular level. Not in a manipulative way, not at all. In a recognition way. When you say someone's name, you're literally saying, I see you as a unique individual, not just someone in my periphery. Their nervous system recognizes this. Their brain releases chemicals that make them feel valued. Their soul recognizes that they have been witnessed. And they remember you, not because you were memorable, because you made them feel like they mattered. It's like that scene in the Help when Ebeline looks at my aunt, says, you is kind, you is smart, you is important. That act is of seeing someone fully. That's what people crave. When you offer that, you became unforgettable. The power of genuine recognition is underestimated in a world that's become so performative. When you notice something real about someone and reflect it back to them, you are literally seeing them more clearly than they see themselves. You are giving them back an image of their own beauty, or strength, or uniqueness that they didn't know they were broadcasting. And that act of witnessing is transformative. People don't forget people who see them. Not really. But here is where the mysticism deepens. When you stop judging others, something alchemical happens. You literally stop judging yourself. Your brain stops looking for flaws because it's stopped looking for flaws everywhere. When you train yourself to see what's beautiful in others, you train yourself to see what's beautiful in yourself. Yeah, the criticism stops, the appreciation begins. And from appreciation, magnetism flows. And then there is the sacred act of boundaries. This is the piece nobody talks about when they talk about becoming attractive, but it's actually the most important piece. When you respect yourself enough to say no to things that don't serve you, when you honor your own energy above people pleasing, you raise your entire frequency. You are literally telling the universe, I matter. My energy matters. My time matters. I will not sacrifice myself on the altar to other people's comfort. And the universe listens. Always listens. The universe respects that. The universe starts treating you differently. Value exchange is real. Every relationship, every interaction is an exchange of energy. Not of money, but of actual life force. When you overextend yourself constantly, you are saying, my energy is worth less than yours. You are training people to value you less. When you show up exactly as you are and let people meet you there, you are saying, this is my value, take it or don't, but this is what I'm offering and it's not negotiable. And people respect that. People are drawn to people who know their own worth. Remember the transformation in Bridesmaids, when Annie finally stops being the yes friend who abandons herself to keep everyone happy. The moment she sets a boundary, imperfectly messy, she becomes someone people actually respect. Not because she's easier to be around, but because she's finally real. The most magnetic thing you can do is have clear boundaries. Because boundaries mean you're not performing, you're not people pleasing, you're not trying to be everything to everyone. You're not abandoning yourself to make other people comfortable. You're just being you. And people can feel that authenticity. It's intoxicating to people who are tried and tired of everyone's performance. Finally, the deepest magic is in conversation. When you stop trying to impress people and started trying to understand them, everything changed. You started asking real questions. You listened to the answers with genuine curiosity. You found genuine connection even with people you didn't agree with. You met people at their humanity. That's when you became someone people can't stop thinking about. The people who are truly magnetic aren't the ones who talk the most or look the most impressive. They are the ones who made you feel heard, who created a space when you could be yourself, who seemed genuinely curious about what makes you you. That presence, that attention, that authentic interest, that's the energy that draws people like gravity. You learned to pause in conversations, to let silence exist without filling it with nervous chatter, to count in your head when someone finishes speaking so you could actually process what they said instead of planning your response. And something shifted. People felt safer with you. Conversation became deeper. Real conversations formed from that space of actual presence, of actual seeing, of actual hearing. It's like that scene in Their Sisterhood or The Traveling Pants, where the girls actually sit in silence and then say something real. That's what you started offering, the space for truth. When you share your passion unapologetically, when you lead with what actually matters to you, when you make room for other people's world and stories, when you stay curious about their truth, you create a frequency that draws people in. Genuine enthusiasm paired with authentic curiosity is magnetic because it's rare. Most people are too busy curating their image to actually care about other people's stories. When you break that pattern, people notice. They remember, they come back for more of that frequency. So, here is what I want you to understand. You didn't become attractive because you fixed yourself. You became magnetic because you stopped trying to fix yourself and started accepting yourself. You didn't attract people because you became perfect. You attracted them because you became real. Real is magnetic. Real is rare. Real is what people are starving for. Over these weeks and months of just living differently, something subtle happened. You stopped performing, you stopped exhausting yourself with infinite choices. You stopped fighting your body. You stopped doubting your worth. And in that surrounding, something emerged. A presence, a magnetic pull that has nothing to do with how you look and everything to do with how you are, how you show up, how you inhabit your own existence. You did that. Not products, not procedures, not external transformation. You did that by choosing yourself, by respecting yourself, by getting curious about yourself instead of critical, by deciding that your presence mattered more than your performance, by understanding that the greatest gift you can give the world is your authenticity. And now people feel it. That's why their eyes linger when you enter a room. That's why they remember you when you leave. That's why your heart racing doesn't scare them away anymore. Because you are not scared of it. You are just present with it. You are inhabited. You are real. You are magnetic. You are home in yourself. And that's the greatest transformation there is. But here is the thing. I feel like I still didn't quite crack you. Like there is something in you I couldn't fully see or name, because this part, it's not something anyone else can tell you. It's your own unique thing, your personal signature. and nobody can speak that into existence except you. So I'm asking you right here in that comments, share it with me. What's your secret? What did you discover that no one else could teach you? Let me know. I really want to hear it.